In this lesson, we're going to talk about polar and nonpolar solvents. Polar and nonpolar solvents will dissolve different solutes as we use the term like dissolves like. So what does it mean when something is like dissolve likes? Well, ionic solids are held together by strong bonds. So we know that. What we do know is also nonpolar solvents only have London forces. And because of that, they are too weak to break the ionic bonds to dissolve ionic solids. Okay, so nonpolar solvents are just too weak. Likewise, if you talk about polar solvents, polar solvents have dipole-dipole forces. And because of that, they are strong enough to break ionic bonds to dissolve them. So that's why ionic salts can only dissolve in polar solvents. An example of a polar solvent would be, for example, why water can dissolve ionic salts, like, for example, table salt, while oil, which is a nonpolar solvent, cannot. So oil is a nonpolar, well, what water is. So what about nonpolar solids and their solvents? What happens there? Well, with nonpolar solids, what we do know again with nonpolar solids also only have London forces. And because they only have London forces, they do not interact with polar solvents. And that's why they do not dissolve in polar solvents. So they only dissolve in nonpolar solvents due to London forces interacting with the nonpolar solids. So this is why, for example, if you have a nonpolar solid, it will not dissolve in water, but it can dissolve in, for example, oil. As always, make sure you keep yourself safe and healthy, and I'll see you soon.